Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Winning the Worry Battle, Life Lessons from the Book of Joshua by Barb Roose. Narrated by Barb Roose. To Dad, thank you for encouraging me to dream. Introduction. Do you ever make up horrible movies in your mind about getting in fatal car accidents or losing your kids at the zoo? I do. Are you the kind of person who hates not knowing how situations are going to turn out and you drive yourself crazy figuring out possible solutions? Me too. For years, I've struggled with automatically jumping to the worst-case scenario whenever uncertainty popped up in my life. In fact, I've spent many sleepless nights trying to figure out solutions to situations that were far out of my control. As a Christian woman, I never understood why just praying about it didn't ease my worry battle. Many times, I thought that there was something wrong with my faith or that God was mad at me because I worried too much. About 15 years ago, I encountered a season of life when worry wore me out. I was a mess, and I knew that I couldn't keep living that way. Out of desperation, I dove deep into Bible study, and I learned how to fight in faith instead of freaking out in fear. If worry is wearing you out, then God's got a new way forward for you. Join me for a journey filled with lots of stories that you can relate to, as well as powerful life lessons from a man in the Bible who fought a worry battle too. His name was Joshua. As we experience his story, you'll learn how to battle worry with many new tools that you can use for the rest of your life. While I was writing this book, my wonderful father, Bobby, was diagnosed with metastatic lung cancer. I used the tools in this book to fight fear and worry so that I wouldn't lose a precious moment of time with my dad, who passed away just 8 days after his diagnosis. Just as God gave Joshua and the Israelites victory over uncertainty and worry, He wants to do the same for you. We're going to find real encouragement to overcome our daily struggles and the bigger battles we all face. When you learn how to battle worry and experience victory, your life will be blessed and you'll be transformed in radical ways. Are you ready? Let's do this. Chapter 1. What kind of worrier are you? That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life. Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. Why did I let my mind go there again? There I stood in my kitchen, swiping at tears rolling down my face. Was I crying about something that had just happened? No. I was sobbing over a horrible mental movie generated in my mind about one of my girls getting into a fatal car accident as she drove to her friend's house. That movie was so graphic, so real, that I could have won an Academy Award for Best Actress, Best Screenplay, and Best Special Effects. I could see the accident scene and myself running and screaming toward a mangled car, with hazy smoke rising from the wreck. I could see EMTs pulling me away from cradling my child as they said, "Ma'am, she's gone. Let her go, ma'am." I could hear my screams in my mind, my heart pounded and tears streamed down my face. Why does this feel so real even though it's only in my mind? Then I'd snap back to reality. I was worn out. I felt guilty and foolish. Guilty because I'd imagined something that really has happened to others but not to me. Foolish because I should know better. Come on, Barb. You've made yourself upset over something that wasn't even real. By definition, the word worry means to torment oneself or suffer from disturbing thoughts. Have you ever found yourself watching a mental movie about an imaginary tragic event in your life, yet you couldn't stop watching even though it made you cry real tears? Almost every single one of us has spent time worrying about the bad things that could happen. whether they involve our families, our jobs, our finances, our health, or our futures. Lately, it seems as though our world has gone a little cuckoo. A few minutes on social media brings on heart flutters for some and an outright freak out for others. Have you ever spent a sleepless night worrying about the state of our nation or world? You aren't alone. If I had a dime for every time I've worried about something in my life, I might be tempted to start worrying about where to store all of those dimes. Take a moment to engage in a quick temperature check on your current level of worry. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much worry are you experiencing in your life right now? 1, no worries. 2, just a few. 3, more than a few. 4, mind is racing. 5, overwhelmed with a lot of worries. For much of my teen years, through my 30s, I hovered between a 4 and a 5. I felt like a bad Christian because I struggled so hard with worry. Why did just pray about it not work for me? I did pray about it, but I still worried. While there were some women who said that they were too blessed to be stressed, I was a 5'10" ball of stress all of the time. Why couldn't I just give my worries to God and let them go? Was there something wrong with my faith? Perhaps that kind of uncomfortable honesty is too difficult for you to hear. But I want to believe that a few of you have let out a relieved sigh instead. You're not alone in the battle against worry. You've tried to push back against it, and yet it keeps pulling you in anyway. That push-pull, back-and-forth battle is exhausting as you first try to resist worry and then realize how it feels after worry has whipped you around a bit. I get it. I've lived it. Yet God has shown me how to wake up each day and claim victory over any worry that comes my way. I'd love to tell you more about how you can claim God's victory too. Do you know how much time you spend worrying? One study quantified that even people not diagnosed with a specific anxiety disorder spent 55 minutes per day worrying about something. Since there are 1,440 minutes per day, that may not seem like much. However, the time you spend fretting, freaking, or flipping out really adds up. Let's look at how many minutes you might have already spent worrying in your life if you're normal. If you are 20 years old, you've spent up to 401,500 minutes worrying. If you are 30 years old, you've spent up to 602,250 minutes worrying. If you are 40 years old, you've spent up to 803,000 minutes worrying. If you are 50 years old, you've spent up to 1,003,750 minutes worrying. If you are 60 years old, you've spent up to 1,204,500 minutes worrying. If you are 70 years old, you've spent up to 1,405,250 minutes worrying. Here's where I'm going to geek out on you a little more. Did you know that 40 million adults in the United States are affected by an anxiety disorder? If you're struggling with anxiety or worry, whether it's been diagnosed or not, you're not alone. This means that 1 in 5 adults deals with an anxiety disorder that interferes with their daily lives. Imagine that one of those adults lives in your house. Maybe you grew up in a home with one parent who struggled with worry and anxiety, or had a grandparent, aunt, or uncle struggling with worry. Here are some examples that might sound familiar. You missed curfew by 15 minutes, and when you come home, your mom screams and yells at you for an hour because she just knew that you were dead in a ditch because you didn't call. Your dad flips out if you leave the lights on or ruin a piece of clothing because he worries all of the time about money. Your grandmother leaves messages on your cell phone each day to make sure that you didn't get kidnapped on your way home from your part-time job at the mall. Perhaps you are the 1 in 5. How many times have you said, "I'm so sorry for flipping out on you guys," because you freaked out about something? If you want to be a better influence around your friends, spouse, or kids, then fighting your worry battle may be the best gift that you can give the people around you. Ask yourself, do I want my kids to grow up and handle worry like I'm handling it now? Or, what can I learn so that I can teach the people around me to handle worry in a healthy, God-honoring way? Mental health professionals tell us that worrying is normal. And since research seems to indicate that everyone worries, we need to be aware and seek treatment if our normal worry becomes excessive. Unlike taking your temperature to find out if you have a fever, there isn't an objective test for worry, but there are inventories like the Penn State Worry Questionnaire to help you determine how much worry is interfering with your life. Maybe you've been to the doctor or another mental health professional, and he or she has used words such as generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder to diagnose your worry or anxiety based on its intensity and influence on your life. If not, it would be wise for you to talk with your doctor or other mental health professional if worry interferes with your home or work life. You may have to battle worry each day, but worry doesn't have to wreck your life. In this book, we'll focus on battling worry no matter how severely it impacts your life. God's power and promises to give you victory over your worry battle aren't limited by how severe your battle may be. You may have to fight a little harder, but God's victory will be that much bigger for you. What kind of worrier are you? I like to picture life as being like a 7-layer Mexican salad. I'm smiling as I write these words because I really love that dish. If you don't, picture your life as any other kind of multi-layer dish. If you're a part of my generation, you may even remember the classic episode of Friends in which Rachel accidentally combined 2 recipes and made an unforgettable trifle with layers of ladyfingers, jam, custard, raspberries, and beef with peas and onions in a large glass bowl. Ross's response to her creation? It tastes like feet. Each layer of a 7-layer dish represents the foundation and progress of my life, and consequently those layers are deeply woven into my worry battle. The bottom layers represent the influence of my parents and other relatives, my education, my self-image, my life experiences, and my spiritual journey. The top layers are more recent experiences and my current environment. Research tells us that our environment can influence what we worry about. If you've seen a 7-layer dish at the end of a party or family gathering, you know that the layers are often mixed together, and sometimes quite messy. The same happens in our lives. Over time, I've become the sum of everything I've seen, heard, and experienced. One of my favorite anonymous quotes is, "What forms you follows you." Based on what I've experienced and observed both in my life and over a dozen years of working in ministry leadership and as a professional life coach, I've recognized the following identities, each categorized according to how they react to worry. Even if you don't like being pigeonholed into one category or another, it might be helpful to understand the different ways that women can manifest worry. Perhaps you will even discover that the difficult-to-deal-with behaviors of your mother, sister, grandmother, or friend may not be because she wants to hassle you, but because she's dealing with her own worry battle. Here are 4 categories of worriers and how they react. The silent sufferer keeps all of her fears and worries to herself. The silent sufferer struggles in silence, and her friends have no idea how bad she's really struggling. Sadly, she can't stop rehearsing tragedy. In severe cases, our silent sufferer is actually in physical pain because of her anxiety. The busybody overworks to control worry. Not to be confused with the annoying busybody, whom no one wants to be around, is a friend that we love to have around because she organizes, calls, picks up, drops off, and cleans out. Incomplete tasks are worry triggers for her, so this is why she tends to overplan and is often overwhelmed. Mother hen's cluck, cluck, cluck nags others to feel calmer, which is a creative way of saying that they nag, nag, nag all of the time. A mother hen will call you 10 times a day to check on you. Mother hens believe that their reminders and long lectures are helpful and keep people safe. They can be blind to the fact that friends or family have stopped listening to them. Even though the mother hen means well, her love and concern feel suffocating. Control freak manipulates to reduce fear and worry. Control freaks use words such as helpful, diligent, detail-oriented, or type A. They convince themselves that their perspective is what's best for the highest good. That's why control freaks justify attempts to steer friends' and loved ones' choices or manipulate the consequences. Did you find yourself in any of those descriptions? Maybe you fit into more than one of the responses to worry. I did feel a little conflicted about introducing these different categories because I don't want you to get stuck on a label. A negative label has the potential to reinforce negative mindsets and behaviors, but if we tell ourselves the truth and treat ourselves with compassion, instead of beating ourselves up, then we're ready to take a positive next step to the future. Taking a first step in the right direction. Change is scary, but let's be honest, living worn out by worry isn't exactly a party either. The first step in the right direction is willingness, which is based on your own power to choose. Ask yourself these 3 questions to decide if you're willing to win the battle against worry. Number 1. Are you tired of living a worn out, freaked out, flipped out by worry life? Number 2. Are you ready to give up your old habits to fight worry God's way, even if you have to learn new tools and behaviors? Number 3. Will you allow God to change your heart, mind, and even your life in order to give you victory? As part of learning how to battle worry in a new way, you're going to learn some important life lessons from the Old Testament book of Joshua, and you don't have to be a Bible scholar to absorb them. You'll find inspiration and encouragement as God teaches Joshua how to fight his worry battle. Even if you think you're familiar with Joshua's story, trust me, there is always more that we can learn about trusting God's promises, being courageous in uncertain times, and developing the strength to hold on and hang on no matter what life throws our way. What's more, the life lessons you learn will also include many powerful practical tools that you can use every day in your worry battle. You can begin to use these tools no matter where you are spiritually. You're going to battle worry every day of your life, but with these tools, you can position yourself to win over worry every single day. I've been a Christian for a long time, and I believe that these tools become more effective the more I continue to use them. If you need a getting started tool to help you with worry today, grab a little stone and call it your worry stone. A worry stone is carried in your pocket, and rubbing the stone between your thumb and index finger can have a calming effect. In addition to calming this physical stress, we want to calm our mind with God's truth. So as you rub the stone, repeat the following: I don't have to worry. God will help me. If you don't like the idea of a stone in your pocket, you can also use a 4x4-inch square of soft fabric. Dream of victory. Complete victory is when we know that God is with us and for us in every situation, whether real or imagined. We're on the path to victory when we lean into God's presence during real crisis or tragedy. We're also on the path to victory when our thoughts focus on God's power and presence as we ponder the future instead of imagining problems that haven't happened yet. Can you dream of victory over worry in your life? Here are some things that I want you to begin dreaming about. Circle or make note of 3 that you want to experience most. Finally finding peace. Learning to stay calm. Modeling peace or calm for others. Not running away. Moving forward even in fear. Making a big, bold decision. Getting up after failure. Holding steady in tough times. Taking on a new adventure. When I began my worry battle over 15 years ago, God had to teach me to stay calm, and I wanted to teach my children how to stay calm. I didn't want them to grow up thinking, "Oh, there goes Mom flipping out again." As God taught me how to use the tools that you'll learn in this book, I learned how to shut down those horrible mental movies whenever worry began to creep into my life. I've learned how to build courage through training spiritually for tough times. And I've become strong in my faith by saying yes to God in obedience. Now I no longer spend my days fighting fear because God has taught me how to fight in faith. You can do this too. If victory could be summed up in a feeling, it would be peace. It's that feeling that you get when everything around you is crazy, but you feel calm and can make calm decisions. In John chapter 14, verse 27, Jesus tells us of a precious gift. He says, "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid." The world tells us that we can buy peace of mind, but we can't. Peace is truly a gift. And Philippians chapter 4, verse 7 tells us that the peace that God gives is beyond the world's understanding. No matter how hard we try, we can't manufacture lasting peace on our own. Peace is God's secret sauce for victorious living. My dream is that you will chase God's path toward victory so that you'll be blessed every day by God's peace. I want you to wake up each day and reach towards God's abundance for your life instead of waking up in fear and worry. Here's one final thought. Today is the last day of my life that I need to be hopelessly stuck in fear and worry. Chapter 2. Cliffhangers. It is impossible to remove cliffhangers from your life, but God's hope is your strong ledge to stand on. Barb Roose. I felt as if I had a raging case of PMS. In spring 1999, I won my company's top sales award and an all-expense-paid trip to Zimbabwe with my husband. Our trip was scheduled for the following June. Even as I smiled in response to others' congratulations and excitement about our upcoming trip, behind my smile was a struggle that I could barely contain. What should have been one of the best seasons of my life was wrapped in tears, stress, and anxiety. Prior to this opportunity, I'd only traveled around the United States and not abroad. In my mind, Africa was a paper map that I'd memorized for my junior high geography class, filled with dozens of strange names and amoeba-like boundaries. When I realized that we'd won an opportunity to travel to the massive continent, my mind tripped over what could best be described as uncertainty, or the situations in our lives where the ending has a question mark. Uncertainty can have one of the following endings: a good ending, a bad ending, a mixed ending, or a surprise ending. But there's also one more kind of ending, my most hated form of uncertainty: the ending that never seems to come. When I think about uncertainty, the word cliffhanger comes to mind. Before streaming media, American television audiences watched regular episodes of our favorite shows from September through May. Back then, we would rearrange our schedules to make sure we were in front of our televisions for the final regular episode of the season. Once those shows ended, we had to wait until the new season began the next fall to watch the outcome to the precarious or hilarious situation we had been left with. Who shot JR? Would Ross marry Rachel? Is the hatchlight on? Who survived the Grey's Anatomy plane crash? Even though we hated heading back to school in August, we couldn't wait to see what was happening with our favorite shows in September. The night of the Friends season premiere, with Ross and Emily at the altar, I locked the door of my room and took my phone off the hook. You see, in ancient times, our phones were mounted on walls. If you took the handset off the main part of the phone, then no one could reach you. It's the modern equivalent of blocking everyone all at once. Now, we have streaming media, and while cliffhangers exist, the timelines have changed. Shows like Doctor Who, Sherlock, and Call the Midwife air their season finales, and then fans wait up to 2 years in some cases to find out what happened to their heroes or favorite characters. Is Moriarty back? Will Sheldon and Amy get married? While we embrace the will they or won't they in our television shows and movies, we generally reject uncertainty in our lives. If I'm driving to a new area without a map to tell me where to go, that uncertainty immediately produces stress. If you've gone on a first date with a guy and he doesn't make the promised call, that uncertainty produces stress. When you feel an unknown lump, that cliffhanger creates stress. When I'm not sure which way a situation will go in my life, it's hard not to imagine myself hanging by my fingertips on a ledge that's 1,000 feet high over a canyon. That would be a little less stressful, right? In that moment of uncertainty, the biggest question on my mind is WWHME. Do you remember WWJD, or What Would Jesus Do? Well, WWHME captures the core of my struggle in the cliffhanger moment. What will happen to me? Uncertainty is at the heart of our insecurity. It's hard to move about difficult circumstances if we're not sure whether or not we'll be okay. It's hard to make good decisions when we're not sure if we need to protect ourselves from potential physical, emotional, financial, or spiritual harm. So what do? We use tactics like nagging, manipulation, and control to try to remove the question marks from our lives. But even though we put on our Sherlock detective hats to find out the how, what, or why to whatever we can't figure out, that doesn't actually mean that we'll eliminate uncertainty. How many times have you gotten even more frustrated because you've moved heaven and earth to find answers, but all of your effort created more questions? I found a breast lump on the evening of my 38th birthday. I kept asking myself, is this what I think it is? I thought I'd be okay if I could get a mammogram as soon as possible. After the mammogram, there was more uncertainty, so the doctor ordered a biopsy. After the biopsy, I faced an entirely new crop of uncertainties that kept me spinning round and round. Eventually, the biopsy results were negative, but enduring that period of uncertainty positively turned my life upside down. There's actually a theory called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which states that it is impossible to know simultaneously the exact position and momentum of any given particle. This principle, if applied to everyday life, would mean that you can't know everything at all times. This concept, like kryptonite, cripples control freaks like me. What are the cliffhangers in your life these days? Is there a place in your life where you feel you are hanging off the edge with no safety net underneath? Or maybe your cliffhanger looks like a closed door that you can't see behind, or 2 doors with only one good outcome. Does your cliffhanger look more like a sadistic game of Russian roulette and you're wondering if you or a loved one will be saved or will suffer.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?